Oh,
Hello, everybody.
We're live. Time for another breakfast and blockchain.
Get your coffee ready.
Huh?
Get your coffees ready.
Get your coffee
Butter your toast.
look at the size of this coffee cup. You can't really see it. Let me put it in there.
Oh, it's big. But the question is, how much coffee is truly inside of that cup?
None. It's chai tea. Yeah.
I was a little disappointed too. My coffee machine ran out of water as it was, and it's only like a little baby cup.
Oh, I got one better. My coffee machine ran out of coffee.
That's even worse. It just ran through hot water. This slight hue of coffee from the residual coffee. Awesome. So thank you everyone for joining us. This is our weekly live stream where we chat about all things blockchain. Often we have special guests. This week it's just going to be us shooting the breeze. We'll see who joins in the chat, and we'll also, you're welcome to potentially even join in. Let's silence all of our devices because that's what professionals do on live streams. Yeah, so lots going on in the ecosystem. I think we've got, we did the top 5 moments, recorded that earlier today, Wax and myself. Some big ones. The ENF have come out with a grant framework, which just means more money for the ecosystem. And that's awesome, because the other thing I really like about the grant framework is it's not predicated just on public goods. And a lot of the previous, so Pomelo is the other big one to get funding for projects, but that's strictly public goods. So that can be a bit restrictive to revenue generating enterprise and businesses that are looking to get some funding. And this is now an opportunity to do that. The other really big one in the EOS ecosystem would have been the Eden. Eden community was kind of the first way to get money. It's kind of funny. You guys probably remember, right? When Eden first came out, that was like, oh, there's a way to get money now into like from the from the network to do something. Holy, what are we going to do? And now a year later, it's there's a lot of options.
Yeah, it's really progressing.
Yeah.
If you're building in general on ESAO, you can get grants all over the place.
Well, that's just it. Yeah, I was just going to say, shouldn't leave out. Telos has a bunch of really great programs as well. They've got their Ignite program, and that was they promised 12 million Telos. So depending on the price, it's around 12 million bucks, give or take. A little less right now, I think, but sometimes it's more. And that's over 4 years, however. So it's like a program to, again, it's kind of like a grant program, not strictly focused on public goods. And so that's a good one as well. They also have a worker proposal system over in Telos, but I hear whispers of they're looking to kind of tweak how that program is offered up, and especially now there's other opportunities. So they want to I think there's an opportunity to kind of refine and get a little more efficiency out of their worker proposal system. And I think Wax also has a program for grants projects. I didn't look too much into that one, but I believe so.
Yeah. I think there's an article coming out from Gabriel soon, which I'll be publishing, and that'll cover all of the ESAO grant options, so you can do the circuit.
Sweet.
Yeah, plenty of opportunity.
Yeah, that'll be good. So yeah, that was a big one. And then we had the quarterly report, the ENF quarterly report. And I like their timing. I like to see when these things are 2 weeks after the quarter close. Perfect. That's when you should see a quarterly report, and they've delivered. So kudos to the team there. We could probably skim through it. Do we want to look? Let's go through that bad boy. Let's throw it up on the screen. There it is. Q1 report 2022. And we've got a picture. Somebody looks very busy. That's good. And efficient. No keyboard even. Just going straight on the screen.
Right on the thing.
So summary of their mission, which I think this is a great mission. They've got a mission to enable developers, businesses, and individuals to build on EOS to further innovation. Like it. What else we got here? So progress report. So they talked about things that happened in the first quarter. They grew their team, which is awesome. Got secured some senior developer talent, which comes up later on as to actually it's in the grant framework that it's mentioned. The new devs they brought in, who I think are very well known in the ecosystem. Some of the few handful of people who actually know how the protocol works at a really ground level. So awesome to have those on ENF's team. And they're going to be part of the team that reviews grants applications from the technical point of view to make sure they're actually achievable and milestones are reasonable and things like that. So good to see. Some socials.
Yeah, good social.
33% increase in Twitter followers. That's a pretty big jump.
3,270 individual. That's good.
Yeah.
Really good.
And we got the working groups. The main ones, Audit Plus, Core Plus, API Plus, Wallet Plus, and then they've added EVM Plus, Yield Plus, Recover Plus, and EOSIO working group, which this one was pretty exciting because the recent announcement is that 4 of the chains who are communicating and working together have come up with some money. So they're actually going to do some work and put some dollars to it this time. So it's $8 million, I think they raised. I haven't seen the video yet. I don't know if you guys have seen the video. I don't think it's been posted from that meeting where they all agreed on that amount, but I'm curious to see what the breakdown is from each chain, what they're all contributing, and how the voting weight, if it is indeed just flat, or if there's any sort of premium for, say, like EOS, who's likely going to put up more of the funding, would they get a slightly higher vote threshold compared to Telos, Wax, and what was it? Telos,
UX.
UX, yeah, right. So we'll see that come out. So that's good. So talk about that in the quarterly report. Summary on Pomelo, matching pool commitment, a lot of 8s. And that's ongoing, and we'll get into some Pomelo pitches. And if you're watching, by all means, show us your pitch. We'll talk about it. Direct funding contributions. So that's the other little juicy bit that they'll be topping up some of the Pomelo pitches, which with an additional 125K. But that'll be after it's ended, so that'll be it won't affect the matching pool allocation. It's just like a top up. And then we got some ongoing development, funding initiatives that they're spending some dough on. They've contracted OCI to do transaction lifecycle from the API Plus working group paper, so that's good. And looks like some other stuff Fractally contracted for Mandel development. So that's the first sort of hard fork away from B1 owned EOSIO repo. That's kind of exciting. I haven't heard much from Dan these days. Josh, have you been any updates sort of from the Fractally side of things? Actually, here, before we go there, let's just finish this. And then you go through something about WordProof matching partner for social goods. So it's kind of neat. WordProof is timestamping documents and things.
Yeah, shout out to WordProof. That's an awesome plugin resource. And it's a way that pretty much any WordPress website, which is a lot of the web is built on WordPress websites, they can be using blockchain, and EOS is one of the main options. They have at least one other option as well, but basically you can be running your website application on EOS very quickly right now if you just install that plugin.
Sweet. Yeah, so that's good. Talk about that. EOS support, a little shout out there to the work that they're doing with Randall Rowan, and they've got a Pomelo pitch as well. And then a little summary of financials. Personally, I think this could be more granular. I mean, there really isn't a lot of detail. The buckets are good. I don't know. The buckets are good to see. But I feel like they could provide a touch more granularity here.
Yeah, because 817,000 on marketing. Quite a lot.
Right? Yeah, it's a lot. So it's like, I don't know, maybe, and so like even, it'd be useful for people who look at that number and like, oh, wow. But when you look at that and then maybe scroll up and realize, okay, well, there was 37 videos and 28 blog posts, and like how many of those blog posts were amplified and paid amplification to get them onto the coin desks and the coin, all those coin potato and whatever. So maybe like that would be part of the granularity that could go there, right? Is just sort of tease out a little bit what are the buckets inside of that bucket and how many are on payroll. You don't need to say how much each person's getting, but if you at least indicated how many that is, that would at least allow people to do some back of the envelope math and be like, okay, that's a reasonable number. If this is paying for 4 people, that's a lot. If it's paying for 8 people, or six people and a couple part-time people or whatever, right? That would at least give you a little bit of extra information. But either way, still good to see the buckets. And as far as the percentage breakdown, I think it's pretty reasonable how they're breaking it out.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Josh, any updates from the world of Fractally? I've kind of been out of the loop in terms of what they've been doing these days.
Well, actually, on the EOS Nation channel, on the Hot Sauce that Dan Singjoy hosted today, they were going into some details about things that are happening there. And one of the things that he was covering So this is a live stream that happened just a little bit ago, right before this one. And Dan kind of resurfaced. He's mostly people have been seeing him on the weekly meetings on Saturdays over at the where people are practicing and testing and iterating the some of the stuff in the Fractally white paper through weekly meetings. That's one of the components of the Fractally system that's described in the white paper, and people are over there earning tokens for their contributions while testing out the process while the software is being built. So Dan reemerged in the EOS community this week and was in Telegram, sharing some things, giving some updates. And one of the things was that he's not really around much because he's been spending 80% of his time coding, from what he said. And that should be pretty interesting to people. And also kind of explain why he's kind of been quiet. He's just building, basically. And part of that might be because what Fractal is doing for their own stuff, and it could also be because of the contracts that they have for Mandel.
I see. I was a little disappointed he didn't make any comment about the recent, or maybe I missed it if he did, but the recent Eden election. Did you guys see, did he make any sort of tweet, share, like? I don't think I saw anything.
No.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think I saw anything. Maybe he'll comment on it if he's at that meeting tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's too bad. Because his support goes a long way. Like, as much as I think it's clear he's moved on from the project, it's still it's a nice legacy to have left behind. So I would imagine he'd be happy with the recent those who were elected.
Mm-hmm.
Good. I mean, the process seems to have worked twice in a row now as far as an official election goes.
Yeah, for sure. Should we dive into some Pomelo pitches?
Pomelo pitches? Sure. Which one do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about, let's go for USBs.
Okay. Let me bring it up.
Because Jesse was talking to us in our Discord channel a little bit earlier.
EOS bees. So this is Pomelo. You go over here, you can search for any keywords, and then it'll bring up. So we've got two sort of, Jesse's got two projects, an open source referral system and his global coordinated marketing. Well, let's start with this one because I actually am not familiar with this particular one. Open source referral system. So it's partnering with EOS support, teaming up, a referral system available to all of the EOS network.
I think this may be building off of or in partnership with what EOS Costa Rica has put together on Proton, and bringing that over here to EOS and building in additional features and stuff, and trying to solve several different problems, including the bees being able to measure their effectiveness, right?
Right. So they got a full blog. This is interesting. Anyone can become affiliate and be counted as a qualified lead, either by using Port, which is a Pomelo pitch where you take your passport, you scan it, and then it ties the result of that to your EOS account as being like a unique passport. So it's kind of like civil protection, essentially. Or participating in a short video interview. So taking a page out of the Eden membership process. Huh. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So support that. Doesn't have quite as much support when we look at, oops, not there. We look at this one. This is their big,
their
big one.
Well. It's got to be one of the most sponsored Pomelo pitches, right?
It's up there. Yeah. I think if we sort later by total matching.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty wild though. $1,800 donated, yet they'll get another 29 if it ended today in matching.
Yeah.
Pretty neat.
Power of the bees.
I like the little dudes. Although I wish this was like a little chestahedron.
Yeah, it needs to be a little EOS logo on there.
Little EOS up. So yeah, their focus, positive culture, translations, swarms, where they basically what you'd expect a swarm of bees to do. They all attack at once, except it's a friendly attack. Just like fighting FUD and doing pleasant things.
Yeah, it's really strong amplification for individual bits of content. And it goes out to everywhere around the world as well. So all the different communities and all the different languages.
Yeah.
Or you can choose as well, I think.
Solid support. A lot of recognizable names. Energios, Ray, Trimbot, Mr. Lovejoy, Mr. Vanegas, EOS Microloan. He was really generous. He's given a lot to a bunch of projects. Yeah, Hernan, Mike. Yeah, it's kind of cool. I like the and James too. Shout out to James Mart. That's a big donation right there. 400 EOS.
Wow.
James is a good dude. Part of the Fractally team. Those who don't know, I don't see his project from last Pomelo. Last season, he had the EOS Power network, which is allowing for native pull transactions, which to those who don't know, it's basically meaning you can, most of your transactions in real life are pull transactions. Like you have automatic and automated payments, for at least I do. I think a lot of us do. And so that's a pull transaction where the vendor triggers the payment and pulls it from your account. In crypto, you can't do that because in order for someone to be able to do that, they have to have the keys to your account. So they can't just pull from your account. So often the way pulled transactions are solved is by using an escrow service where you would deposit some tokens or of value into an account, and then the vendor would pull from that account. But that's not normal. Like we normally don't have an escrow account for our traditional finance and traditional payments. So it's too bad to see his project isn't up, but I think he's also quite busy with helping the Fractally team and doing work there. Kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's getting incorporated in what they're working on in the roadmap.
That would be interesting.
It'd be interesting to ask them about it.
That would be very interesting, actually.
You
Yeah.
don't just come up with a novel idea and then, not somehow include it into what you're working on is what I'm guessing.
Except in order for that to really be a thing, it requires the blockchain that it's on to like accept it. Like it's something that block producers have to opt into and actually run. And it does affect, well, the way he's proposed it in the white paper, it actually would affect how BPs are selected. Like there's a really neat dynamic. It's quite clever because normally right now, when you have EOS, you can take the EOS and you can stake it and get, ideally you'd have it in Rex and it'd be a return. Right now EOS has a problem where there's not really any return in Rex, but assuming it's more like Telos where you actually have a return, Telos is like 13.6%, 13.3%. You get a return, so you get some money. So you can basically be a whale, you stake, you get the return, and you can then vote for BPs. So you have or sell your vote for BPs, right? So you kind of have this dual utility where you can get yield and you can select BPs and participate in governance, which then the BPs get money and there's like this little circle potentially, right? His idea is that as a token holder, when you stake to this, call it like a proxy, where you stake to that account, you get to choose between either collecting the yield that would come from that or selecting BPs. It can't be both. So that clever mechanism means that most of us who really maybe don't care about BP selection, which seems to be the vast majority of token holders who leave their tokens on an exchange and don't care, they could just collect the yield. But then those who actually are willing to forego the yield because they want to pick BPs, well, then they have to make that conscious decision. And I think the idea is that you end up a lot of BPs would self-participate, and then they would vote for themselves and then forego that yield because they get more yield being a BP. So it's a clever dynamic to kind of break those apart and force token holders to choose between greater yield or greater governance influence.
Mm-hmm.
But in order for him to do that, the BPs need to participate, which then leads me to wonder, is the Fractally team creating their own blockchain? Because this is we're going into speculation land. I have no information to indicate anything about this. I'm just purely spitballing ideas. But it would be neat if there was another new chain that's the Fractally chain.
They have to, really. They haven't got much choice, I think. We'll
There's,
see it soon enough.
yeah, there's a lot of options, and we don't really know at this point. We only know what the breadcrumbs are on Telegram. which there have been some breadcrumbs, but in crypto land, things shift so fast. And even the EOS community, I've been really impressed and surprised with the sentiment of, and I think a lot of it has to do with all of these actions, some of the things that were just mentioned in that quarterly report, particularly the EOS IO basically alliance, the early stages of an alliance has formed. And of course, we're now referring to EOS IO as Mandel, which is the holding name for a new brand name that we're also not aware of yet, that will be emerging soon. So there's going to be a new name for the forked code base. And four of the chains have already agreed to align and work on this code base. And the community sentiment has gone from being, the perception of it has been kind of dominantly self-sabotage, not the leaders of the community, but just like the vocal minority. It just has appeared for a while to be like very negative, and people kind of like they don't have the right mindset for the price of the token to go up and for people to want to be in the community. So it's been kind of a problem, and that seems to be changing quite noticeably in the last several weeks, especially. To me, it's become quite noticeable. So it's amazing how fast such a big problem like that can shift when enough work is done behind the scenes, and people just keep moving in the right direction, and then it all kind of culminates a little bit. We're starting to see, to me, it's like a miracle. I don't know what do you guys think about that?
I think it's good to see everyone working together, and the concept of unity across chains and within chain dynamics as well. Everyone working together it's much stronger, and it's finally coming into fruition. Where it's something we wanted to achieve at the very beginning, and I think we facilitated. Definitely, it's been our narrative, but to see Telos and EOS working together and UX.
Yeah.
And what's the other one? Which other chain is it again? Basically, the chains coming together. It's just brilliant.
Yeah, Wax is the other one.
Yeah, Wax. Yeah.
Yeah, they all have different needs and stuff too, and they're kind of niched out in certain ways. Wax, of course, is really trying to scale much more than the other chains are at the moment. Like as far as survival pressures go, they really have to scale their chain because of the adoption and the type of applications that are adopting it. Yeah. They're really putting it to the test, it seems like. So what they need versus what the other groups need, part of the miracle is that these guys were able, even though they kind of have different needs and stuff, they were able to agree that working together, it's going to benefit them all more than if they just keep going their own individual ways, which is incredible.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of work put in by everyone to achieve that goal together,
Well, and here's how they can work together. Like here's where it can be perfectly synergistic, because one of the things that is surely on the docket for them to work on is reducing transaction finality. Because right now it's like 90 seconds, which is actually pretty slow. It's actually one of the kind of bad things with EOS, right? And the way that works, I don't understand, is when you've got 21 block producers, and you've got one block producer, and they run half-a-second blocks, and they do that for 6 seconds, and then transitions to the next. So when you've got a BP and they produce a block, and then they make the rest of their blocks, and it goes to the next BP, and they do their set of blocks, you have to get through 15 and then onto the 16th BP to make their blocks, to make the first block now become final. Basically, finality is reached once that 16th BP. So you always have this lag where it's like the whole 16 BPs worth of blocks are kind of moving along, and it's like the ones at the beginning here are where the finality enters. So you have that lag. But there's a solution that's been proposed. It's been looked at by a lot of people, and it looks like that might bring it to a second or two or three. Like, I'm not sure exactly where it'll end up, but it'll be a whole lot better than 90 seconds to like 2 minutes, right? So what that'll do then, okay, so I'm going somewhere with this. So now you look at Wax, and they have an issue with throughput. They're like rate limited at 22 to 24 million transactions a day. And they're like, that's kind of it. Like they're kind of reaching the max threshold of what they can do. So now you take what UX has with their IBC, and it's a trustless IBC. And if you recall the interview I did with Guillaume, he explained that what this can allow is not just moving of tokens between chains, so IBC, inter-blockchain communication, that communication can be more than just token balance. It can actually be executable functions as part of a smart contract. So when you've got now a dApp running on Wax, executing transactions and actions on smart contracts, and those are taking up too much room, you can now use the IBC to move part of that execution to another chain like UX. So now, but the problem is that was limited by finality. So you would have to wait if you're actually running as part of a series of actions within an application, you'd have to wait 90 seconds for it to go from this blockchain to that blockchain, and then you have to execute over there to do something. Wait, that time would happen, which would be fast, but then you have to wait another 90 seconds to send the information back. So you have this lag between being able to use another chain and this horizontal scaling method. But if you have finality to like 2 seconds, well, now you can 2 seconds, send it over, it does its thing, it comes back, and now you're looking like maybe 5-second lag between having the transaction originate on Wax, part of it processed on another chain, and then sent back. That is where we can really start to see horizontal scaling happen, which is exactly what Wax needs. So this is where I think I'm hoping that one of the first projects and part of that $8 million pool that they put together, they should put it towards that, is actually getting the devs to build out this shorter transaction finality. So then we can see horizontal scaling. It's good for UX because they get to then show off their IBC and make use of their chain or any other chain that's going to do that. It's good for Wax because they can scale, and it's good for Helios and all the chains, EOS, right? Because same difference. Shorter finality is good for everything, but it's really good for horizontal scaling. So I'm pretty excited that these guys are coming together, and you couldn't do that on their own. Like, this is one of those things where if they didn't work together, that solution would not be in the cards anytime soon. But together, there's a chance that it could happen pretty quick, I think. That's my story.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think it'll be great. Hopefully they do work on that because it is essential for Wax. And they're bringing on so many important projects. They've got so many big names associated with them. It's some really good and interesting NFT projects.
Yeah, they do. Well, that blockchain brawlers has been insane.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Have you guys followed that at all? I watched. I started watching a thing with William Quigley. He was on similar sort of special with CNBC, I think, and it was. I think I saw it on Twitter, and he was talking about how the residual income or like part-time income people can make doing these play-to-earn games, and blockchain brawlers is like killing it. As far like I know one guy who's totally not a crypto dude. Like he's learning and he's keen and he's a great guy. I'm not gonna call him out by name, but he bought some of the brawlers before they were like live and before the bridge happened, because you could get him on Binance Smart Chain and Ethereum. I think mostly on Binance, I think, is where a lot of the transactions are happening. And then they made the bridge where you can pull it over to Wax and you play the game on Wax, but then you can sell your tokens, because the brawl token and the actual assets within the game on like Binance Smart Chain. So, or BNB chain it's called now. So, but he said he spent, it was 13 grand. He had sunk into buying these packs to get the brawlers, and they were limited, like they were scarcity, as you'd expect. And he's now playing the game from the brawl token or whatever. He's made 15 grand in a week. And I haven't spoken in the past week, so I don't even know if he's like doubled it again. Like if that's like a consistent, like that's insane to me. Yeah. And the game's not even fully fleshed out. Like the idea, I think it's going to be like more of an actual game. And I think right now it's more one of those just time-based, click a button, wait for it to farm out, and then you get your tokens and click the button again, I think. Yeah. But pretty awesome regardless. Like it just goes to show if there's enough interest in something that the demand will kind of dictate price performance, which is supply demand. That's how that formula works.
And you can rent out your brawler so that people
that's coming. It's not there yet, but that's what they're hoping to. That's what they're hoping to bring.
Yeah, cool.
That's I saw that's in the roadmap, and that's because that's the thing too. Is right now there's scarce supply of these brawlers, and the cost to get one is $6K, 4 to 6K, I think, was the secondary market to buy them. So it's like it's pretty steep for like some kids to get involved in a game, right? But now when you can rent your brawler, and the other thing too is like when you're clicking the button every hour to like farm, you got to go sleep. So now if you can like rent out the ability for someone else to do that while you're in bed, then they can do it. And you maybe you take 30%, they take 70% for clicking the button for you, and then they can collect some funds and get into the game, right? I think that's kind of how they're hoping more people will get involved.
Yeah. People need to set up some kind of automated mouse clicker, ghost mouse.
Right? A little, there's a guy and the little bird, and it just very manual. However, that's not what
I really like the Hot Wheels NFTs that they've got. I think they're really quite cool. They're great. Some cards from childhood on there.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that one.
They look really good. We've done 2. They're on the second edition now. It's really quite limited. And I checked out some of the prices from the cards from Series 1, and they've really shot up in value as well. The scarcity is quite high, and there's a massive queue to get hold of them as well. So you have to queue up to get them. Quite difficult to get, I think, especially some of the tokens associated.
I don't get the success that Wax has had as far as like NFT, play to earn games, and all this. I just don't understand why their token hasn't gone up in value. Like, am I missing? And I obviously must be. Like, what's the utility of their token? It must not. Like, I'm not understanding why they haven't had this massive, because they're getting a lot of visibility and like as far as like actually working and doing what you'd expect NFT platform and play to earn game platform to do without, low transaction fees and all that jazz that EOS.io has. I'm surprised we haven't seen their token have a 0 put behind it.
It's kind of operating as
financial advice.
Token.
What's that?
Yeah.
It's not financial advice. I don't want to give it.
Yeah. I think it's kind of operating more like a stable currency to some degree, so that the value is actually in the assets. But I don't know. It's quite strange. It's interesting though. Should we dive into another?
It could just be a timing thing. They've been building, and there's probably going to be a convergence of the market, having painful problems, and then Wax has already solved them and is there to kind of be the solution when it becomes painful enough. And maybe that just hasn't quite happened yet. So I think it's just a convergence of things and timing, probably.
Yeah, I think when more people realize that the gas fees on OpenSea are pretty high, then they'll probably come across.
Yeah, I'm not talking about gas fees, although that is painful. I'm talking about a chain is broken because of a game that does half of what one game on Wax does.
Yeah,
broke the chain. Those kind of problems. The gaming industry is huge. It's something to reckon with, and Wax is probably one of the only chains out there for the most part that's done so much development that. I don't know. We shouldn't exclude all the work that Ultra has been doing either.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
But in terms of adoption, Wax is ready for a lot of these. They've all, they're not having the problems that exist on these other chains, and the other chains haven't fully been challenged yet. I think they might be a little bit scared. If like somebody really tries to do something like what they're doing on Wax, it will break their chain most likely.
Yeah. Was it Ultra who were mentioned recently by that influencer?
Yeah, I'm going to bring it up on screen because I'm trying to find it. Where is Trimbot did a tweet. I got to go to his tweets and replies. And he commented on how a bigger Twitter influencer, a crypto influencer, JNKY or something. What's dude's name?
Similar to that, if not that.
Damn it, where'd it go?
Similar.
Hold on. We need to find it. I know where to go. But the moral of the story, here it is. Okay, I found it.
Okay.
Yeah, let me bring it up on screen. Okay. Allow. Share. Okay, so this is the tweet. So Trim's commented here. Great video from my friend JRNY Crypto. 19 and a half minutes in, JRNY mentions EOS and says he'll make a separate video about EOS. What he didn't mention here is the reason he's mentioning EOS is because he was talking about Ultra, EOS. And it was actually one of his top picks with 10x gains, and that's the Ultra token. And that is EOS.io. It's a private blockchain, but they have been working hard on. I read a tweet recently. They've got about 2 years into a first-person shooter game, and they're having a whole it's basically like doing what Steam is.
Yeah.
And this whole immersive multiple game experience, but then you can move assets. They've got their unique marketplace, it's called, and you can basically have in-game assets, skins, avatars, whatever, but there can you can move them between games. Again,
and you can sell games as well.
Pardon?
And you can sell games as well. You can trade games on there.
Oh, is that, yeah, you can actually game ownership, you mean, the ability to play. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of cool that, yeah, he mentioned he'll do a video on EOS, but he was talking about Ultra when he was doing that. So kudos to Ultra, because we're EOS.io agnostic. We just like all EOS.io. So I think it's fair to give them the shout out there.
Yeah, and Ultra has been a part of the conversations of, the EOS.io Mandel. Mandel's the code name, the placeholder code name for the new forked code base that basically all of the chains are kind of taking responsibility for, and Ultra's been a part of a lot of those conversations from what I can tell, as well as some of the other chains. They haven't jumped in yet to the mix, and I don't exactly know why. I think some of it has to do with just kind of timing and taking action. And so Ultra right now has a private chain, if I'm not mistaken. So they're operating a little bit differently than someone like Wax, for example. All of the chains, I don't know if UX hasn't it's live. I don't know if you could say it's fully launched yet, but the other Telos, Wax, EOS, these are large public chains. And so there's other EOS.io or chains that are collaborating and that can benefit from this Mandel code base, from this upgraded code base, and they will benefit from it. But they're not necessarily putting as much skin or investment in the game yet as these other chains are. But that's probably going to happen. I think these guys are just kind of getting things rocking and leading the way. So we'll probably see a coalition of several more chains jumping on as things roll out here.
Well, they're there. That's the thing. Yeah, the chains, that's the EOS.io Plus working group. And you had, FIO was there. They didn't put up any money, but they've been involved in the conversation. Also had Even Bullish had a representative, and Voice had a representative. And they've talked Eva Coop. I don't know what that is. They had someone there, and but the thing is all those other chains, even though they're not putting up money, they're still their voices are able to be heard, so they can still participate on those calls. They can have input. It's just when it comes to actually voting on what they're going to put this $8 million to work towards, they don't get a vote, which perfectly reasonable. They shouldn't get a vote, but they can have a voice. So that'll be interesting how that'll play out. And I think, like you say, the problem with Ultra, it's they have a private chain, so they can't even it's tricky to have in terms of them utilizing Mandel and that upgrade. It's not really they're private, so they don't really know. And that question would come up, right? Because Rami James, he's the guy whose YouTube channel that a lot of those videos are up on, and he's predominantly with the Ultra team. So he's Ultra, he's one of their reps, and they've spoken about the challenge of if you don't kind of make it public what your repo is, it's hard to know what the differences are, and then take that into consideration when they're making changes to the main Mandel, whatever the new name will be, actual code base, right? Because if they've made changes and then they don't sync with the upgrades, that's a problem. So I don't know how they're going to square that. And same with FIO, apparently. That's one of the challenges with FIO is they've made a lot of custom tweaks to the base EOS.io protocol. So again, they're a little less incentivized to want to really chip in and participate, because there's a lot of customization that would be required then for any upgrades, because they've done so much already to their chain to kind of have it do what it's going to do. So, but at least they're in the room, and bottom line, it's good conversation. Makes for fun videos to watch if you're into that sort of thing. I enjoy it.
It's quite interesting because it's almost like if FIO got involved and had to share code base, they'd lose their selling point and all the work they've done.
I think there's public, it's Ultra. Ultra is the one that's private.
Okay. Yeah, and Bullish is private, and Eva has a private chain, and I don't think Chintai has really been a part of the conversations, but that's another chain out there. So there's a lot of these chains, and they historically haven't really been working together officially, in the capacity that has been happening behind the scenes lately, and is starting to culminate into something real, where eventually I don't want to say a mother organization, but they will form an organization, like a super organization together at some point, I think is the road that we're going down. And the story of how all this stuff has happened and come about is quite interesting, and hopefully will eventually be properly told one day. The broader crypto market, I think, has no freaking idea what's really happened and what's going on yet. It's kind of like it's all just bubbling under the surface at the moment, and those who kind of have a sense of things are just at the right place at the right time, is what it feels like to me.
Well, I'm in the right place at the right time with Ultra because I bought some of their tokens quite a good while ago, and I keep seeing very, very good news coming out of Ultra. For people new who might be actually tuning into this video who don't realize, and you're familiar with Ultra as a gaming platform, it's no secret to know that Ultra blockchain is built using the EOS IO software, where you'll find other blockchains like we're mentioning FIO, EOS itself, Proton Chain, Wax, which is the very popular NFT platform. What else have I missed? Chintai, Telos. Again, Telos has amazing visibility in the broader crypto community. So if you're interested in Telos or in Ultra, which you should be, also you should be coming and looking at what's being built on the other EOS IO chains as well, and understanding the conversation that the guys are having here is that the infrastructure, the actual underlying chain functionality, the features are currently being improved. So you'll be able to see a lot more innovation coming through on those chains, including EOS itself in the coming months. But I'm a big fan of Ultra for sure.
Yeah, there's just so much in crypto. This is what I'm super guilty of being in a silo because I don't know what's going on with Phantom and Avalanche and Solana, and I mean I follow Terra Luna a bit more because I learned about it and it was interesting, but I don't think you can. There's just so much to know. So it's no wonder that the broader crypto. I mean, the knowledge follows the price, because that's what ultimately catches people's attention. Is like, what, you made 1,000x on this token? Let me look at that. I mean, so then you get people become experts because they take the time to look into it because price go up. So I think once those who do know start to see something like EOS having its EVM come out, and we've seen how EVM has affected positive price appreciation for other chains that have adopted EVM, not financial advice, but you can see that that's happened. So if EOS is so lucky to have that happen as well, then I think we'll see a bit of a narrative shift of people rekindled interest. Oh, okay, I've heard about this EOS before. I thought it was a scam. Wasn't it a big rug pull scam? They took all the money and left. Isn't that what happened? Well, no, that's not what happened. Not the EOS. We didn't take the money. Like the EOS community didn't get the money. It was another entity that ended up with the vast majority of that ICO. So.
Yeah, I mean, interesting from like a venture capital viewpoint, like traditional venture capital, the investment takes 10 or 14 years to mature sometimes. Like maybe 10 is kind of a good way of looking at it, which is a long time in the crypto space, right? Yeah. And at the point that we're at right now, these various chains have just been building since the initial injection of capital and the code base was released and everything they needed to kind of start building and launching their networks and developing them and stuff like that. It's just been basically startups building for several years, and it's now starting to get to a point where these investments are maturing and they're starting to find their niches and their use cases and getting proper adoption, solving enough of the problems where, like you could say almost all the users to this point, it's been like long-term beta testers or something, right?
Yeah.
So from a venture capital standpoint, the people who, even in EOS, maybe who've been complaining like, oh, I invested all this money in EOS and all these other tokens and coins have mooned and are more popular and stuff like that. If you really take a more sensible viewpoint in what you invested in, then you should be like really happy about your investment at the moment. If you have a sense of what's happening in the market, and you see the kind of things that Gabriel's mentioned in his articles, like for a while there was Jack Dorsey he was kind of poking at the VCs for owning so much of so-called Web3, and then Elon replied. This is in Gabriel's article about like, where is Web3? Have you seen it? I haven't seen it, more or less, because where is it? And to be honest, and maybe if you're in too much of a silo, you wouldn't be able to speak to this well enough, but in comparison, it kind of feels like what's happening in this ecosystem is more of the true real Web3.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It has the capability anyway. That's right. That's true.
Speaking about the chains, sorry, Chris, a couple that I've been familiar with in the past, Cardano and Zilliqa, they also have struggled to find their sweet spot in the market or market relevance. Cardano looks like it's moving towards environmental compliance as a key use case for projects to build on what they're doing. Zilliqa has only just recently launched or announced their metaverse play. So chains that are layer L1s from years ago, just like EOS is not actually in unique position in that sense that it hasn't yet developed its popularity. There's plenty of other chains that are still working now today to find that position. What I see for EOS is just the breadth of use cases that are available and possible. Not choosing just to focus on metaverse or just to focus on environmental compliance. I've been going through the Pomelo grant pitches. I've got like 100 tabs open. There's so many projects of people within the EOS.io or EOS community. I've got a few categories. I've got a few notes here. I've got 5 categories so far that I've put these pitches into. So just to go through that a little bit. One is infrastructure, and you guys were just talking about transaction finality and interoperability, cross-chain, that kind of lovely stuff. That's fundamental, and that's required by any blockchain. What I can see in the Pomelo grants, there's one called Zeos 1, which describes itself as snark libraries, and savvy crypto people or developers will understand the significance of what that is. But it describes to provide certain levels of privacy to their DApp users. So I'm putting that under the infrastructure bracket, and they've actually got a donation amount so far of $53,000, which is great. It's like a specific application. That's a good chunk of change for developers to focus on delivering something that will support core infrastructure that can be applied across many commercialized dApps built on all of the EOS.io chains, by my understanding. Maybe it's just EOS chain or all of them, not sure. Another one is EOS Ecological, which describes itself as an NFT value standard. Technical document that builds the underlying value standard of NFTs in metaverse. So again, another open source code opportunity for projects to use these components, making their development, their metaverse development, that much easier because they're able to take components readily available as open source in the EOS.io community, which is being funded partly by the community, partly by the ENF Foundation, etc. Another one is Pizza Lend. Describes itself as basic DeFi Lego infrastructure. So he says almost all derivatives are based on lending services one way or the other. So if you're doing some kind of derivatives DeFi dApp, then you'll be able to use the Lego pieces that Pizza Lend is developing to provide it open source. So you'll be able to that much faster build your applications, which again for crypto investors is fantastic because it means dApps will be able to come to market sooner and easier, bringing in more money into the ecosystem, the EOS.io ecosystem, and it's easier for developers to actually build as well. Feel free to jump in if you have some insights about these projects as I'm running through, but I'll just carry on.
Keep going.
A few categories here. The next one. Yep. So then, am I still there? You froze.
Yeah. You're doing good. Keep going.
Am I on?
Yep.
Um, I'm in a cafe in South Mexico near the beach, so the Wi-Fi might be spotty, but this is definitely blockchain, Bitcoin, blockchain and breakfast, because I'm having breakfast at a beachside cafe. So pardon the noise, pardon the poor Wi-Fi, but I'm definitely living the dream. So moving on. So we got value. My next category is value chain, and this one is of particular interest to me. So once we've started to establish the core infrastructure for building dApps, then the question should be for everyone, all developers, all founders, is, well, where is the economic value and opportunity for building sustainable businesses on top of these blockchains? So a couple of the grants here. One is EOS Trace, and this describes itself as commodity traceability. So commodities are your raw materials that are being extracted from the ground, connected to then supply chain. So you're transporting raw materials or early stage materials to other locations, manufacturers, places that it's going to be used. Describes building a decentralized global economy. This is exactly what I'm here for. This is exactly what I want to know about. It says vital in today's political climate of supply chain restrictions due to the political situation. We should all be seeing that inflation is such a big challenge. Partly in China, they're creating lockdowns, partly in Europe with the sanctions, partly with Russia. This is hurting people. And here is a project that is looking to build open source functionality, which means other developers can make use of their technology to build traceability for commodities. Of personal interest is I like to know where fish and meat comes from that I eat. I want to know which restaurants have clean sources of food. And so that's another relevant use case for something like a traceability app built on the blockchain, enabled through EOS, and all of the businesses and the good that can come from a project like that. So that's one I like. Another one is Old Timers EOS. This is a marketplace platform. So we need to trade. The point of having a core infrastructure of a blockchain is that we enable trading and value exchange to stimulate economy, to serve people. So having something that is giving an open source marketplace is fantastic, because it allows people to create shops, to create places for people to buy and sell. I don't know too much about this project. I'm not advocating it. I'm saying the idea is very relevant and important in my view. Maybe these guys are doing a good job, maybe they're not. I have noticed with a lot of the grants that I think there should be more description about what they do, what their backlog is, what their feature roadmap is. I think a lot of them need more detail. But the point for general viewers here is that there's hundreds of projects that are being funded, being supported, that are building infrastructure that I don't see generally in many of the other blockchains that have a popular audience community at this moment in time. So I guess I'm saying watch this space, because I can see things growing in the EOSIO community that just don't seem to exist on other platforms. Moving on quickly, so the other category I got is community. Red packets is something that the Chinese culture uses as gifting, and there's something called red pockets, which is again in the Chinese community, to be able to make some kind of digital gifts. I just thought that was pretty cute, pretty nice to see the micro niche use cases of this technology to service local communities. And that's another big theme, I think, over the coming years, is how blockchains will enable trading for financial inclusion in emerging markets and in local communities to do what they love to do, and make it easier, make it more cost efficient, make it more fun, make it more efficient, etc. Another one is EOS Questioco, gamifying collaboration and contribution, which can be applied to anything to incentivize the financial rewards and fun. And so I think this kind of project points to better marketplace dynamics, offering rewards for solving various problems, and that can be applied to important community situations. So a problem of needing a straight road built can be incentivized using blockchain for traceability, for making payments. Again, these kind of things are good open source applications for many use cases, and that's supporting local communities. Moving on, got education and knowledge share. Buywire, if you're in the EOS community, you heard about Buywire. There's another group that are doing Russian translations of Buywire content and news, again, bringing advances of blockchain, education of blockchain to other language communities around the world. Absolutely fantastic to see that kind of initiative. And again, opening up these markets. We know in terms of business, you open up new markets with language and the economic opportunity is absolutely massive. So it's good to see those initiatives in the EOSI community as well. Another project is, the name of it is some letters, but Chris Barnes, can you speak to this one? This is Educate Children About Governance Structures. I see that kind of education is very key to our long-term future. Maybe you can give some color to that because it's either your project or you're involved.
The anti-fragile education?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that was basically an idea to put together an education platform. So it started with this guy, Dennis Heenick, who kind of just found us through, I forget how he found us, to YouTube or something. And then he hopped on one of the, we used to do Monday open mics for the Eden community. And he hopped onto one of those and we started talking. And he's a high school teacher, and he was teaching a lesson or a whole sort of set of, like a semester's worth or a whole year's worth of classes on financial literacy to high school students. So he wanted to sort of create a series of lessons around blockchain and tokenomics, and really it's actually started with, what is money and like this sort of fundamental stuff that we wish we all learned when we were in school, and most of us didn't. So he started doing that, what is money versus currency, savings, interest, inflation, asset types, and then taking those sort of traditional finance KPI and metrics and applying it to crypto. So how does the concept of what money is and scarcity being, fungibility and all that type of stuff, how does that then apply to what is crypto and what is Bitcoin? So then he's so we're down here. He's done lessons on all this. What is blockchain proof of work versus delegated proof of stake? Why EOS.io? What is EOS? Difference between a contract and a promise and a smart contract. NFTs, we're on play to earn and tokenomics now. And eventually we're going to get into doing a little bit about fractal democracy. So, he can teach that. So that was like one angle, but then we also thought, let's make like a children's book. So we've done this. This is a pretty cool one. A children's, where is it? Learning example, primary teacher's guide. So teachers could take this material and actually teach primary kids. There was a version of a book though. Where'd the book go? Learning blockchain? No, that's not it. Anyway, the idea is to gather some money, put up a repository or a website that then people can use to then have this open education depot that you can use as a high school or primary school teacher.
That's awesome. And so the last category I've got is onboarding, and there's a bunch of projects that in all of these categories. I just started picking a few as examples, but this one is EOS London UK. They're asking what seems like quite a big chunk of change of up to $200,000 to do marketing to promote EOS and education. I personally ran a lot of crypto-related meetup groups in London around 2017. I want to see a lot more detailed breakdown in terms of the use of funds for that kind of initiative. I agree it's very important. There's there's quite a few programs like this. I'm definitely interested in this kind of thing, and especially because I know London and come from London. So I'm going to reach out to this project and find out some more details. But again, it's good to see we have the analogy that to build a tall building, it takes a long time to build strong and wide foundations. And I feel like if anyone interested in crypto investing, or founders interested in finding a blockchain to build on, or developers looking for a home, then just to go through the Pomelo website itself and look at all of the initiatives that are happening, and building one layer on top of another. The skyscraper is going to zoom up into the sky sooner or later. So excited to be here. Good to see all of these grants happening. There's just, is it just 24th of April? Do I have that right? That the close of the current season round of Pomelo?
It'll end on the 23rd. So folks have 7 days, 18 hours, and 56 minutes to donate to your project of choice or projects of choice.
Yeah, and if there's anyone new tuning in here, or relatively new, what we're looking at here, Pomelo, is a quadratic crowdfunding platform, and it's similar and inspired by Gitcoin. And if you're familiar with Gitcoin, Pomelo has made some interesting improvements. I think as a platform, it's still in its early stages, but I think it's actually quite simple and easier to use, and the community has really been using it. This is only the second season. We've almost got $1 million matching treasury, and it's doing really well so far.
Mm-hmm.
And shout out to the Pomelo team and the people involved in building this and creating it and making it happen.
Yeah, most definitely. This is one of those few moments where we can thank Block One for something. It's not often where people in the EOS community would be like, hey, Block One did something good, because it's a lot of negative sentiment. But they did at least give some money to EOS Nation and EOS Asia to actually help get this program off this platform off the ground.
Yeah, and just a reminder, the power of quadratic crowdfunding is, it's not, there's an algorithm and there's different factors, but it's not so much about how much you donate. It's more about the number of contributors, and not exclusively. It's not quite that cut and dry, but this is a chance where if the community really shows some support for your project, then you tend to get a larger share of the matching pool, which is not how a normal crowdfunding platform, works. Whether it's in the Web3 community or not.
Yeah, you can sort of see the way so for example, EOS support, they've received $3,800 in donations from 103 unique contributors. Their matching is 72 grand. Wombat Dungeon Master, they've only raised $775. Huge difference there, but from way more people, 159 unique contributors. So their match is less, sure, but still 55K. And then as you go along, you can see these guys are almost getting the same in matching. This is Zeos, what you mentioned earlier, Gav. But more individual donations, because you can see that they've raised a lot less. But because they have less unique, and they've actually got more unique donors, less donations, they're actually getting a greater matching than Zeos. So it's about the idea where one person giving 100 EOS doesn't do nearly as well as far as the matching goes as a project that gets 100 people giving 1 EOS.
And these top four, this is not their first time on Pomelo. Maybe Wombat is their first season in Pomelo, but the other three participated in the last season. So they're back, reoccurring, probably getting more support than they got the last season. The matching pool is getting bigger so far with each season. And now there's a grant framework that has just been released, and there's 3 different elements from the EOS Network Foundation, the ENF, that you can make a grant proposal, and there's like 3 different types of grants that they're looking at. And the middle one has a requirement that you need to participate in Pomelo. And so if you want to have access to maybe more money even than what you might be able to get on Pomelo right now in these early stages with these seasons that happen about every 3 months, you can participate in Pomelo. You'll get some money from there. You'll get some community. Hopefully, if you have a good project and you do the legwork, you'll get some community behind you to help get that going. And the ENF is looking at Pomelo projects, but now you can actually, if you've got a Pomelo project, you can go and follow the instructions to do a grant proposal, and you can get, kind of get topped up in a sense. And if you just kind of keep going from there, then you can open yourself up to even more funding And again, the new grant proposal framework that was just released, there's 3 different kind of categories, but participating in Pomelo really looks very favorable for you.
Yeah, and it's through GitHub too. So for folks that looking to do this, you actually got to have a little familiarity with GitHub, where you got to kind of fork the repo, do your submission, and do a pull request. Is my understanding. I think is how it works. And this is what you're saying right here, right? The medium, higher Pomelo grant required.
So yeah, so imagine what this is going to look like. This is only season 2. Imagine in a few seasons ahead, as the current projects have actually built their open source dApps that other projects can make use of. Many of them are extending what they've built before, and there's just going to become such a large library of components and code that other projects can build on. And we can start to see how that can achieve a geometric progress for commercial dApps into the EOSIO ecosystem. Very exciting.
So we've got Mark Shear joined us, also known as Earthman. Great guy. I've gotten to know Mark over the past year in the Eden community. He's very active, really thoughtful, conscientious dude. And he's a big supporter and proponent, and he's been consistently onto this idea of translation. And he's really, he just has a lot of personal interest about translation and interacting with people from different cultures and languages. So really cool. And he wanted us to talk about this pitch, which is the Translate Me portal. And it's a guy named Ryan, I believe, behind this project. I've spoken with him before. Also seems like a great guy. And they are looking to raise funds for basically a machine learning type of translation portal that has tokenomics integrated, and folks are rewarded with the token, their Translate Me token. And so they were originally running on Neo, I believe, but they're looking to bring it over to EOS. So I think that's part of this. Anything to add, Waxer? Are you looking at this project as well? You're on mute, though, big guy.
Yeah, it looks interesting. I think it'll give everyone an opportunity to communicate around the world much more easily. So yeah, it looks great.
There's a few projects that have been looking at the opportunity on Pomelo and wanting to port their stuff over, right?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, HiFiDAO, another big one that I know we're all a fan of. They've got their pitch up this season as well. But yeah, this is pretty cool. Like I've used it because it's running. It works. I think it works on Telegram. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And you can add it, and you can basically then have it translate for you. And there's even, I mean, I don't speak enough languages to actually do it, but I think those who are multilingual, then you can submit corrections to translations, like based on the auto translation. So there's this, yeah, here's Mark's in the comments, right? The public good is free APIs. They're available now. Yeah, exactly. And they want to bridge to EOS. Yep. Because they have a token. So here he goes. The trainers get tokens. So that's part of the tokenomics piece. And again, tokens, you want to have that on a blockchain, right? So it's this idea of scarce token supply, and it's trustless in that respect. And you can actually see what's happening in terms of the token supply. And a lot of different languages, currently supporting 20 languages. Like that's quite the list.
Yeah. There's another project I want to look at as well, which is Polaris.
Are they on Pomelo?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
They're a business that's been through our Incubator Lite program. And what they want to achieve is help people discover artists which you wouldn't necessarily usually find via the type of music you listen to and the type of and other people connecting with you as well, to help you discover kind of underground music that you might like. So it's quite an interesting model.
I like how they did in terms of the MVP and the stages of funding.
Yeah, it's a good breakdown.
Nice breakdown, yeah. And where are they at so far? Oh, they need more support.
Yeah, just need more support. Definitely worth looking at.
Yeah, hopefully they'll also apply for a grant, as the season. Maybe they're already working on their ENF grant proposal.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And Andrew's another one of those guys who's, very thoughtful. I like listening to him speak. He's well spoken and been in Eden, like he's strong contributor in Eden, been around, participating in the elections. So those are the kind of guys I think, in my view, are the ones I have a soft spot in my heart to want to like try to help in a way, right? Because they're so involved. Like again, Mark Shear, another great guy. Like these guys are so involved, and those are the folks I think that almost deserve to help, right? Because they've given so much already. So it's like that's where that the idea of kind of reciprocation and karma in a way.
I think it's a tool I'd certainly use to find artists which I wouldn't necessarily come across. I often, when I'm using Spotify or Tidal, I'll try out new artists on the recommended list. But if there's a nice visual data representation like that, it's easy to use and well curated by the community, it should be pretty useful.
Yeah, that kind of a project totally makes sense, and seeing these start to manifest, putting like that breakdown that you just showed that he's got there for Polaris, that's fantastic. What it will take to build specific things, I like to see that. And then as they become commercial, then they start warranting private equity investment as well, and so we can see a snowball effect out of this base layer of public crowdfunding into what we do at Helios, or focused on more private equity for larger amounts of money. It's so awesome.
Yeah.
Just want to because Mark's got a couple more comments, and I just want to make sure I get him out for him here. So he wants, this is back, translate me, just a couple more moments. He wants to get them funded to bridge to EOS, which I think is awesome, because he mentions here that the bridging EOS and the NEO communities. So it's a win-win, 1 + 1 = 3, because the token would then bridge across those two communities. He's also mentioned that their service is 20 times cheaper than Google Translate. So the idea that there are translation services out there, certainly, but if it can be more economical to incorporate the Translate Me service, then great, right? So
Brilliant.
yes. So thank you for that, Mark. Appreciate you commenting and joining the convo. And there was one other project that we were supposed to shout out, Energy Ledger, which is also participating in our current Wave 2 season of the Helios Incubator program. I am still confused, however, Gav, what's the relationship with EOS?
Yeah, so I just had another call with these guys just this morning. That's why I was a little bit late to get here. They are doing all of the right things in terms of their diligence at building a business case. They're the best amongst quite a lot of projects that are focused on customer validation. Garrett, the CEO, he actually moved to Texas in order to be in the heart of his customer marketplace to learn the industry. He's done trips over to the United Arab Emirates just recently to go and actually speak with people. And he's constantly iterating on his investment pitch, on his sales pitch to sell the platform to real world customers. He did a token sale already, I think it was a couple of years ago or a year ago. And now he's building out the actual infrastructure of a platform, a real MVP with memorandums of understanding from a whole bunch of like 20 plus clients. It's really encouraging to see their attitude, their focus on the details. We looked at their financial model today, the spreadsheet with the numbers of costs and things, and still refining, still making adjustments, still assumptions, still questions to answer. But they're doing that level of quality, detailed thinking and exploration and work. So whether they get invested or not is another question, but they're doing the right direction of being investable. Asking for EOS, they're actually doing, selling the carbon offset credits packaged as NFTs using the EOS, using EOS contracts or EOS IO infrastructure. I got a blender in the background making my carrot juice, I think. So
Just realised I'm talking on mute again. Now, are you on mute, Chris? I can't hear you. Maybe there's something my end.
Hilarious. No,
There we go. We're all talking on mute.
we're all talking to ourselves.
Yeah, it's a great project. I need your ledger.
This is one I wanted to mention really quick. They just got 3 days. They kind of joined late, but Hyperion is a history API solution that runs on EOS and other EOS IO chains as well. And there's not enough of them on EOS. This is one of the issues with just the incentive structure on EOS in terms of where block producer pay goes. There's no incentive for any BP to really go through the trouble of putting up a Hyperion node because it adds, so it's not cheap and it takes a lot of time to get it working and running and keeping it running. And again, there's just the BPs aren't incentivized to do that. They're incentivized to buy votes and move up to the top 21, but that's not the same as running quality infrastructure and quality API. So this is a project definitely worth supporting. This is Tiago from EOS Rio out of Brazil. Tiago, you should not have donated to your own project. That's a no-no. So just so you know, in Pomelo, when you put your own project up, you can't donate to yourself because it kind of breaks the rules. It's no big deal. You don't get disqualified or anything, but they'll just remove so for example, Tiago gave 12 EOS to his project. They will do, the Pomelo team will do some forensics. And when they see that, they don't assume, I don't think right away it's malicious. Like Tiago's a great guy. I've interviewed him before. Or no, I haven't actually. Have I? I don't know, but I don't think so. But, good dude. And obviously I don't think he meant to do anything by this. So they'll just remove the matching piece of that 12 EOS is how they, I think, try to fix that. If they see blatant scamming going on, I think they get a little more serious with terms of how they would try to respond. And there are some instances of blatant scamming that I've noticed. I'm not going to call it out, but it's there. And the people who are doing it are doing a really lousy job of hiding it because it's extra obvious when you make a brand new wallet and give a ton of dough to just 2 projects that happen to be your own. Yeah. Oh, we got a comment here. Andrew, thanks for the player shout out, guys. Absolutely, dude. And anyway, yeah. So, folks watching, definitely check out this this Hyperion pitch. We're supporting. These things aren't cheap, and this definitely. And it's one of those things where this is a true public good because applications that run on EOS, they need access to the history of the chain, like the state history, to pull up tables and data from the blockchain. Right? You got to pull that data up. You need a history solution in order to do that. So without these history nodes, the blockchain almost, it's kind of useless for a lot of use cases. Like it doesn't actually work for a lot of stuff. So, or anything. I don't even, geez, could you even really run anything without a history node? I'm not enough of a technical guy to understand. I don't think you really could for the most part. So let's support that project. That's my request for the audience. All right. What do you think, fellas? Anything else we want to chat about?
No, I think it's been a good coverage of all the funding available and the potential for the future of EOS. It looks really interesting, from people developing their own MVPs via crowdsourced funding to projects that are already somewhat established, being able to then advance what they're currently doing. It's exciting times. It's interesting. Some great projects.
Right on. We'll cover more next week.
My last thought is that so if I've only donated to HyperDAO on the Pomelo grant platform, and I'm going to be going through and doing my donations pretty soon. If any projects are watching this, for a bit of encouragement, make sure that you're actually describing what it is as if you're speaking to newbies. That might be newbies to the EOS community, certainly newbies to your project itself. One example that comes to mind is EOS Power Up IO. I don't know what it is, but it says is a critical EOS public good. Well, That sounds good, but it doesn't actually describe what it is. To someone like me, I'm new to that particular project. I'm not a developer. So every project should take time to go through and give more detail rather than less detail. Be clear on the benefits, the features that you're building, the roadmap, why it's going to contribute something of value to people, and then hopefully you'll get more contributors that way. and I will certainly be going around probably at the weekend and giving out some donations. So looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, well, Power Up definitely is a well recognized. Like, this is how much they're getting already. This is John Heater from the Boyd team. Works with Seth, another excellent set of dudes. There's so many good people in our ecosystem. No shortage of awesome people. There is a bit of background here about what it does, Gav. So I'd have a look. Right? They basically it's allows community members and businesses to handle their account resources. That's the key bit there. So when you try to do a transaction and it says transaction failed due to a low CPU, you can go to the eospowerup.io page and you can enter your account. Let's do it. eospowerup.io. You can enter your account here and you hit the power up button. I won't waste it and do it, but you do that, and then it'll give free resources, because there is a slight transaction cost on EOS. There is like a gas model on EOS now, and it's minimal, very minimal. However, it's still there and you can run out. So put your account name in, it powers it up for free, and you get free transactions. So this grant is basically to help them keep that funded. And it looks like they're building out some additional features with some NFTs and like a referral code. You can get your friends and you get discounts. And so, they've got some building out the platform. They've tried to monetize with some advertising and stuff. I've seen that used by a few projects. So really great. So I'm glad you noticed that one, Gav, because it is a very much an incredible team, but really the true definition of a public good.
Fantastic. All right, I'm going to enjoy my I think you can see that. Where's the camera? There it is.
Oh, there it is.
That is
Yeah,
not an alcoholic cocktail. It's just a carrot juice. I'll continue to enjoy it and working here from the beach.
Awesome. Okay. Take care,
Thanks for
Gav.
the call, Chris.
Okay. Bye-bye.